Raise some Cain. You gotta raise some Cain. In the heartland where the faith runs strong, we've seen the shadows growing long. Watch those around us be deceived. Yeah, the fight is at our doors, no matter who we believe. Corruption, lawless day and night, we'll speak the truth into the light. We'll bring the battle, heed the call, watch the whole thing fall. We gotta raise some Cain, show the lies, break some chains and make things right. Feel the power, be the change, time is now. We gotta raise some Cain.
Welcome to the Raising Cain Show. I'm your host, Nate Cain, and today we're joined by Robert Howell, a dedicated conservative and current candidate for California Senate District 15, representing Santa Clara County. Robert's career in public service began over a decade ago when he founded the Tea Party Patriots of Silicon Valley. He later served as a board member of the Liberty Forum and was elected to the Silicon Valley GOP in 2020. In 2022, he ran for California Insurance Commissioner, earning an impressive 4 million votes. As CEO of Exatron, a family business in San Jose, Robert has a strong connection to his community. He recently founded the Silicon Valley chapter of the California Republican Assembly and is now focused on bringing his conservative values to the state Senate. We're excited to hear more about his campaign and his vision for California. Robert, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me.
So I guess a good starting place, would be to ask, why are you running for California Senate District 15? What inspired you to make this run? And what are the key issues driving your campaign?
Well, first of all, this is actually the second time that I've run for this office. It's the first time I made it to the ballot. If you know how California works, it's the top two. And so, when you have a whole bunch of Republicans and Democrats, it unfortunately ends up being top two Democrats. But in 2022, I made it to the top as insurance commissioner. And again, this time around. Now, why I run is partly because I can. I've got the resources and the time and, that sort of thing. I know if you don't do anything, I know the answer to that, what happens then. So I like to just make sure I get out there and do all I can to bring California back some sanity more than anything. I've got grandchildren now, and they're not going to have the same opportunities that I had. And I don't think there's any doubt about that. So, I got to watch the Silicon Valley go from orchards to high tech to a political basket case. So, so that's kind of where I'm at. So.
Yeah, I grew up in California. I lived there pretty much my whole life until I was about 20, and then I joined the military and moved away. And I still got family that live down in San Gabriel Valley and in Ontario and Pomona and Covina and those areas down near LA. And I've always loved California for its beauty and its just the geography and also the laid back kind of just attitude, and it's definitely a culture that I've always appreciated. But it seems like in the last 10 to 20 years, man, California has just gone off the rails, and a lot of that seems to be at the state in the state legislature. So I'm glad to see conservatives actually stepping up and running, because I think that is where the key, issues is in the state legislature. You guys just had some really terrible bills that passed recently, on parents' rights, and that would give the ability to take children out of the home for not affirming your child's gender identity and nonsense like that. So the challenge that I see for anybody running in California is, how do you overcome the the progressives, and so I'm curious to hear about that. So what are your thoughts on that, and what strategy are you using to get some of those moderate voters to come over and vote for you?
Well, first of all, it's programs like this where I'm allowed to, basically have a few minutes of sanity and be able to, more or less one-on-one. And I don't have those kind of resources. I need millions of dollars to deal with this campaign if I did it from a traditional advertising point of view. In the case of the insurance commissioner, it's been $20 million for that campaign if you want to do it, quote, quote, properly, for a job that pays $120,000. Now, tell me that doesn't mean there's a whole bunch of corruption in those offices. Yeah. I mean, it's got to be, right? So like the gentleman that I'm running against, remains nameless, he's the guy that wrote the initial abortion law that California passed. And the best part about it, there was a tweak to it initially to allow up to 28 days after birth. Now, how in the hell does that work? Right? I mean,
that's infanticide.
The doctor's going to buy into that. But the good news is there was enough outcry from the Democrats that they took that out. On the other hand, the same guy recently brought up a bill to allow criminals in California who are in jail for parole, no chance of parole, lifers, right? He was going to give them a chance of parole.
Wow.
And the good news, it went down in flames as well. The other interesting thing is California's got some interesting tweaks going on right now. Gloria Romero, I think her name is, state Senate chair lady, just was switched over to the Republican Party.
Wow.
And she's the boss, basically. If I win the Senate committee, she'd be my boss, right? Especially now that she's Republican. So that's very interesting. The California legislature also didn't allow for the black, what do they call those? The reparations, stuff for black guys, right, to give families to have, a whole bunch of extra money. That went down in flames. The bill that was going to give illegal aliens $150,000 cash for a down payment, that went down. And now that's the official stories you hear on public. Now, what I think is going on is the state of California is rapidly going broke, big time. Newsom has managed to blow a $80 billion surplus to the official number is something like that, but who believes the numbers? That's a different problem. When they publish stuff, it's like the jobs numbers, right? Oh, we lied, 3 months later. I mean, so that's a different problem. I'm not in office. I have no access to the real numbers. And unfortunately, I don't think anybody in the public has access to real numbers either. So if I had a chance to be elected, one of my big bugaboos is to make all these numbers public, which they should be anyway. Some people call it transparency. I would call that common sense. But I think I think what they're kind of counting on is that the other guys win again, because then they'll bail California out. But if Trump wins, yay! By the way, I'm a staunch Trump supporter, hands down. There's a rally going on tomorrow, actually. Trump's going to be in town. So anyway, there's a whole bunch of people going to be out there doing their thing. And those are just plain fun. I just like that. But at the end of the day, Trump's not going to bail out California. So I think, and rightly so, why should other people's taxes pay for California? I mean, everybody knows I pay a stupid amount in taxes now. And, oh, by the way, they just added another 20 cents to the tax to our gas. Did I just freeze on you?
No.
Maybe? No?
That's just,
okay. I just understand.
You still there? Can you hear me?
Yeah, I think I froze. Let me see if I can do something about that.
I think your video froze, but I was still hearing your audio.
Yeah, that happens. I'm in Almaden, and this is supposed to be one of the high-tech areas, and I can't get decent internet. So, and you can't see it, but the router's right behind me, literally. I mean, I can't be 5 feet from it. So let me see. There might be a way to fix this. I've got more than one choice.
So, one of the things that has recently happened in California, of course, was you have Tesla that has decided to move out. ExxonMobil that's decided to move out. You got major corporations that are huge, employers that are leaving the state. And obviously that's going to hurt the state's budget even more because that's going to be less taxes coming in.
Yep.
So tell me about your when you're out talking to people, what is the sentiment that you're getting from people that you're talking to? And are you, how big is your district? You said it's at Santa Clara County. How many people are there?
I have roughly, well, I do it by people, that there's approximately 500,000 people that could possibly vote for me. And Santa, I think, you can hear me though still, right? Because I'm having video issues on my end. And but my district's kind of convoluted, which is normal. The top end is a line that drives through downtown San Jose and weaves and dodges and goes out and does all kinds of weird things to pick up as many Democrats as possible. And then from there, it goes south all the way down to Gilroy. So from a kind of a overview, it's the bottom 2/3 of Santa Clara County, if you want to do it from that point of view. And the bottom half of Santa Clara County is very Republican. So I think that's kind of why they did that. They're bringing in some more Democrats because the bottom half of Santa Clara County is, it's rural. There's people out there that like horses and guns, right? So they're going to vote for me. So at the end of the day, that's that. Now, when I'm talking to people, I try to hit the bread and butter stuff. Gas is $4.50 again. Eggs are, $8 a package. I saw one day. It's like, you got to be kidding me. Those kind of issues. And that resonates with everybody, regardless of, the super liberals don't care what stuff costs because they have somebody else paying for it anyway, right? But the people in the trenches, the people that have real jobs, there's people hurting around here. You can't pay your rent. Of course, there's all the other issues like, homeless camps all over the place. And, if you have a small store, another store just closed in San Francisco because they put a homeless shelter, a block, I guess right behind them actually. And it took a couple of years, but the guy finally said, hey, I'm getting robbed blind here and it's don't do anything about it. Well, my personal favorite is if you talk to any of the police officers, they'll tell you one thing. But if you look at the statistics, the crime is way down in California. That it's way, that's because nobody reports it anymore because they know they can't do anything about it, right? It's a total waste of time. So
they're doing the same thing up in New York.
Yeah, I'm a common sense kind of candidate, and I'm going to go for that. I'm not going to give them a bunch of platitudes about all this, green energy stuff, which blah blah blah. It's more like, what can we do to help with your family? And then, of course, if we talk about schools, that's a completely different discussion. Santa Clara County, for starters, has 34 school districts. Do the math on that. And San Jose Unified is like 80%. So, there's school districts around here that have a single school, just one. It's crazy. But, with not graduation, but the illiteracy rate is like 30% for schools. It's less than 30% in math. And we spend $21,000, if you believe the numbers, per child. And then my brother's a teacher. He's hanging it up. He's done. Because they've also, along with your gender laws, they've also passed some laws in California to make the kids totally out of control in the classroom. I mean, my brother Mike says that they can yell at them, they can spit on them, they can do all kinds of stuff. The days of going to the principal's office are done, and the kids know it. So, if you're in a nicer neighborhood, like maybe where I live, that might not be an issue. But my brother teaches in a neighborhood that's, a little on the rougher side. And these kids, 5 languages.
Yeah.
So how do you do 5 languages in a class of 30 kids?
Well, so you're bringing up a very good point, and this brings up a whole nother issue, which is the border, right? We've had this massive influx of people coming not just from Mexico, not even just from El Salvador and Mexico, but now they're coming from all over the world.
Right.
And I know California, at least back when I lived there, I think they had something like 37 different languages for the driver's test. Now, if you can't read English, you got no business driving a car. And the truth is, if you're not able to read English, chances are you're not here legally anyways.
Well, it's like my ballot statement. Every candidate has a ballot statement. That's about the only thing that I do that gets to everybody. They print it in a zillion languages,
Yeah,
right? So it's like, okay. And of course, I have to pay for all of that.
that's right.
So it's, yeah, you're totally right on that one. But the legal, you're right about the people from Mexico. I think that's kind of been overblown a little bit. I think you're right about all of the other places.
Yeah.
Especially places that don't like us to begin with.
Well, and people that came, people that came even illegally 20, 30 years ago, it was a different breed of migrant. You had people that came here and they assimilated to American culture. But what you have coming here now, and because of the Biden, I guess because they've created this situation where there's no expectation now for these people coming here to assimilate. They're putting them all in one place. You've got Haitians, basically creating their own, country within our country. You got the same thing happening with Venezuelans, and what's happening is now there's no respect for the rule of law, and so you have people who just don't care to assimilate to American culture because they don't have to, because they're all able to cluster together and live in the same place. It's a terrible situation, and California, of course, is one of those states that is hit, very hard with this. But
well, it's all the free stuff. Well, the Haitians they come from a place that doesn't have law and order. Right. So that you argue they don't know any better. I mean, to a certain extent. So anyway, yeah, now personally, my son-in-law came here legally and went through the drill, and he became an American citizen 4 or 5 months ago. So, yeah,
congratulations.
Couldn't be prouder of him. And so at the end of the day, if you still can do it properly, I personally have sponsored several Vietnamese guys over the years, mostly because they knocked on my door and basically hire anybody that we put out a job offer. You stick your hand up, we generally hire you. We're pretty easy on that point. But two of these guys were boat people, and at some point, one guy actually went out and started his own machine shop. So, and he's doing real well right now. But when you hear the horror stories, what these people went through, it's amazing, right, to get to this country. But you're right. They assimilated. They learned the language. In one guy's case, he's got a business going. He employs a lot of people. Anyway, did it right. Let's put it that way.
Right, exactly. Well, speaking of sponsors, I need to give an opportunity for our sponsors. And so we're going to cut to a commercial break, but we will be right back. Folks, stay tuned. After we get back, we're going to get into some of your specific policy issues and hear more from you.
Born in the coastal plains of South Texas, Smoking Gun Coffee is founded by combat veterans that know exactly what a cup of coffee needs to taste like. Run by father and son, each coffee bean is perfected, roasted at 500 degrees, and cooled with a Gulf Coast breeze. Smoking Gun Coffee hand makes and bags each ounce of coffee for maximum customer satisfaction. With every purchase, 10% goes back to organizations that help veterans and local communities. That's Texas made, one bag at a time. To find out more, go to www.smokingguncoffee.com.
Welcome back to the Raising Cain Show. And we are here with our guest, Robert Howell, who's running for Senate District 15 in California. And this is something that I just ran myself for Congress, and I can tell you it is exhausting, and it's hard work, especially when you are doing it at the grassroots level. And so I commend you for that, because it is, California is a beautiful state. It has an unbelievable amount of resources. Of course, the coast, and the ports, and unfortunately, it has just been so badly mismanaged by the Democrats. But, a lot of people don't think of California and the word Republican. They think of the left coast, or they think of the land of fruits and nuts, and, and the kind of wacky, crazy, woke policies that seem to have come out of Sacramento, the last decade. But there was a time where, California typically had Republican governors. I mean, we had a president, one of the greatest presidents of all time, who was a California governor. And of course, I'm speaking of Ronald Reagan. And a lot of people forget that. It's kind of the same thing with like New York
Nixon.
and Trump. You know, sometimes you get really great people that are produced out of these, these liberal bastions because they've had to fight for what they believe in those states. So, Robert, tell us a little bit about, some of the core issues, the things that are really the important issues that you're running on and the things that you hope to be able to change if elected.
Okay, well, let's see. It's a long list, but the first one would be the local economy. To get people back to work again. Like I said earlier, that you can walk around and see just empty businesses all over the place. Near my house, several of the fast food chains just closed down. The local hardware store near me just closed down. There's all kinds of reasons, theft and employee and wages and all that. But every time one of those little stores closes, that's another 20, 30 jobs, and what's really sad is California has done this $20 minimum wage thing, which I understand that to a certain extent. But what that means is that stores are going to automate big time. I mean, already you go in and you talk to a kiosk, right? They hand you your food. You never talk to a person. I mean, so the point is that all those beginning jobs, like, I did, you might have, my wife had, when we came out of high school, you had to get there on time. You had to have your uniform, you had to be clean, you had to be able to be polite. Those kind of jobs are gone. And so we're going to have a whole generation of kids coming up that are going to have who knows what to do. We've tried to hire a couple of them.
Yeah.
So so that's one thing. The other issue around here that's a big one is schools. The school system and the private school system is uber expensive. My daughter's a teacher in one, but on the other hand, the public schools are more expensive if you do the math on what they pay per kid. But they're horrible. I mean, it's amazing how many kids are coming out of school. They're illiterate. You get promoted by age, regardless if you can read or not, and they're going to go off to the schools and high school and colleges, and now what? So that's a big one.
So what do you propose on that issue of schools? Let's talk about that for a minute. What do you propose that needs to happen in order to fix some of this? I mean, obviously, one of the things that I see as a problem with education, including higher education, is the fact that the government is so involved in it to begin with that it kind of creates an industry that is not driven by market needs. So there is no, you've got ridiculous things that are happening. The people's wishes, the parents' wishes are not being respected. In higher education as well, you pay a ridiculous amount of money going into debt to get a degree that may or may not have jobs available for it, and the government subsidizes it, and so that of course drives the price of it up. So, what are some things that you think could be done differently?
Well, when my balance statement comes out, which the ballots get dropped in California on October 7th. So people basically have an entire month to vote. So just make sure you vote often and early, right? But at the end of the day,
that works for the Democrats.
You can be dead too. Right? That's even better. But one of my big things in there is I'm a big supporter of vouchers, and
I agree with that.
California is like I said, they spend $21,000 if you believe the numbers, which I don't, per child. And so I take $20,000 and give it directly to the parent. Now, if you have 2 or 3 children, that could be $40,000, $60,000. And all of a sudden, maybe you can be a stay-at-home mom. All of a sudden, maybe you can afford your rent and teach your kids at home and teach them the way you like. And there's all kinds of, kits and tutorials and things you can get to, that you can use as a syllabus to do that. I mean, I don't see how you can do much worse than what California schools are doing right out of the box. Take away the video games would be maybe a first great step. But at the end of the day, it also would have the effect of making schools get their act together in a hurry. It'd have to be like any other business. I got to earn my customer because they want to come to my business, not because they have to come to my business.
Right. Creates competition.
Exactly.
Now, you mentioned one of the issues that has plagued California as of late, and I've seen this. This wasn't going on when I was living there, but it has become a major issue now. Is this issue of homelessness? What do you think is driving that, and what do you see that could be done by the state legislature to try to turn the ship around on it? I mean, it took a while to get to this place. It's going to take a while to turn things around, but homelessness is a massive problem, and it's one that affects not just the people, the transient living on the street, but also the businesses and that have in the communities that have these homeless people. A lot of them mentally ill, a lot of them hooked on drugs, that are living in tent cities, and I'm sure that's got to be driving down the value of homes and driving people away from businesses and making neighborhoods unsafe. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, like in the case of my business, when people come out from they always say, "Can you show us some homeless establishments, camps?" And there's like 7 of them within more or less walking distance. When you talk about the homeless thing, the first thing you got to realize is that you're calling it the wrong thing. You're lumping all of those issues into the homeless basket, if you will. If you look at the numbers, Santa Clara County spent like $150,000 per person. Again, you got to believe the numbers. You divide what they spent versus what the official head count is, and you come up with $150,000. Now, well over half of that money goes to medical expenses, not to housing expenses. So you're talking about mental illness, you're talking about people that get hurt or people on drugs, that sort of thing. And they go into the hospitals and the emergency rooms. I had a friend of mine that went to an emergency room. I went to see him, and it was truly a scary place to go. They need to have a system where people are not able to take care of themselves. They're mentally ill or on drugs. To quit putting them back out in a tent. Put them someplace where they can, properly get some proper treatment. And I'm big on looking at other states. Vermont's had a couple of ways of doing that are be very politically incorrect in California, but they work. So that's the first thing. The next is incarceration. People they're robbing people and stealing things and shooting people and maybe shooting each other. And so that's the next big expense. 15% of the money in Santa Clara County goes to quote, quote, homeless, tiny homes. I was at a debate one time, and my friendly competition wants to spend anywhere from $500,000 to $700,000 each for a quote, tiny home. And these things are like 30 feet by 20 feet, if that, little square boxes. Well, stupid me goes on the internet and show up to the same debate. It's the same day with a nice brochure from mobile home guys. And for $82,000, you could buy a double wide, 3-bedroom, 2-bath, fully equipped, thing.
Yeah.
And all you got to do is park it.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
But on the other hand, if you put somebody in there that's mentally ill, it's not going to work. I mean, San Francisco's got hotels all over the place that are full of homeless people. The idea being that the local, social service guys could go in there and help these guys. That's noble. I'll give them credit for that. But now they're so bad in these places that the social service guys and gals, they want nothing to do with going in there because it's dangerous, right?
Right.
So that. Now the other thing is turn off their free lunch too.
Yeah, it's kind of the same scenario, of the old. You have these, sections of LA and New York and some of the other big metropolitan. I'm sure probably San Francisco has it too, where you had projects, and basically, these. It almost looks like something out of the Soviet Union. These big concrete buildings, and they become no-go zones for the police because they're so dangerous, so they don't want to go there. Right. And it just perpetuates the problem. And of course, a lot of the people in there are on welfare, and it's a bunch of unwed mothers and baby mamas, and And because that, it's the whole program is designed and incentivized for people to not get married, for people to have kids out of wedlock because they get more money. And it's not incentivizing people to go to work. It's not incentivizing people to get married and be responsible. There's
Right.
nothing good about these programs. And so that's something that I think, and that is a state issue, and it's a state by state issue. We have that problem here too, by the way, in West Virginia. We got massive problems with drug abuse. I mean, that's probably one of the biggest issues, and a lot of that stems from hopelessness and poverty, and and it's a generational problem. It's gone on for years, and so it's not an easy fix. Nope. But I do think that doing the same thing over and over again and expecting different results, it's that old saying, that's the definition of insanity. And so I think it is important to look at other states where they are doing things differently and it's working, and to try. And it doesn't always. Some things that are done in Vermont may not work in California, but it's worth a try, to try doing something differently.
Well, in California, there's a couple of counties that have interesting solutions. They remain nameless, maybe. But one of them, they started giving out bus tickets to homeless guys a long time ago. As soon as you set your tent up, they give you a ticket to anywhere else in California. That kind of works. Now, in the defense of San Jose, Mayhem, our mayor, he's actually made a major effort to help clean up homeless encampments. And in his defense, he's a Democrat, but he's pretty Republican on this particular point. And he's cleaned up homeless camps all over the place, especially near my business. But you wait a week, maybe two, and they come right back. So it's these people have resources. And the interesting thing is, when they come back, they have all kinds of stuff. I mean, the people must be hauling these people around. I mean, there's no way you're bringing this amount of stuff to that spot in a shopping cart. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
There's some middle of the night something people bringing these people stuff, and encouraging this sort of thing. If you give a pizza to a bear, and I used to be, from the time when I ran around the woods, if you give a pizza to a bear, that's a felony, right?
Because then he's going to go looking for food, right?
It's the same logic, right? Yep. And another friend of mine works for a charity, one of faith, we'll leave it at that. And they have beds every night locally. Now, the problem is you got to come in, you got to be civil, you got to take a bath, you can't yell at people, So they have. Is it the best place in the world to be? Maybe not, but it's clean and it's warm and you get a meal and all that kind of stuff. So you're right that we need to find ways to motivate people to basically get off their whats and learn how to be a member of society versus just sticking their hand out.
Yeah.
But the drug thing is the most scary. That's for sure.
Yeah. Now, also one of the things too is with you as a small business owner, I'm sure, you've had to deal with some of the just unbelievable regulations. The regulated environment that is there in California is pretty bad. The high taxes. Yep. What do you hope to be able to do for small business owners and for those people to encourage entrepreneurship? A lot of things is that, if there's not a job of somebody's liking, that's the other thing that we have the blessings in this country of being able to do is start our own business. And there's a lot of people, you mentioned earlier about some people that have come over here and have gone through the process legally. That's one of the things that I find with people who come here and immigrate legally is that oftentimes they are very hardworking people. And because of the challenges that they have of being a newcomer to this country, they end up starting their own restaurant or their own business and doing quite well because of their work ethic. What are some things that you could do to help people, consider becoming an entrepreneur, or to help those businesses that are already in existence but are struggling because of this, the tax burden and because of the regulatory environment?
Well, in Santa Clara or San Jose, I guess the city of San Jose was just awarded the award of being the fourth most unaffordable city in the entire United States. No, the number one in the United States and number 4 in the world. So if you want to start a business in San Jose, California, you want to hire people, unless you want to pay them 7 figures, they can't afford to live here. And the affordability, I saw an article one day that about, and I don't know the exact numbers, but it's roughly a third of the price of a house in California is directly related to regulations. And most of it's the green energy stuff. Yeah. And so when you build a house, you build a house out where you guys are, take that exact same house and build it in California, not counting the dirt maybe, but you build the exact same house, it's going to cost you twice as much. And so as long as those regulations are on there, you can't complain about the price of houses being outrageous if the guys building it have to charge that. So how do you? Well,
that's true. That? That's true of the price of gas in California too. It's all driven by all of these environmental regulations that have been put into place. Now, I remember growing up in Southern California. Back then, the air quality was horrible. I mean, it was really bad, and the state did start, tamping down on, the industrial, businesses and making sure that they were, using pollution scrubbers and things like that. And I'm glad about that, because I do think that the air quality has improved. But some of the things that I remember, my father and I were involved in a construction project that we were building some condos up in the high desert, and the whole project got put on hold because of some stupid, rodent, a kangaroo mouse or something like that, and the fees that we had to pay to move this, rodent and to move any yucca trees, and I mean, it was absolutely ridiculous. We were in the middle of the desert, and and then they've had other stupid policies where they've had drought, and instead of collecting that water in the reservoirs, they've let it run out to the ocean because they don't want the freshwater clam getting into the lakes. It's just such stupidity with some of the things that they do on in terms of environmental regulations.
Well, I just added on, I have a house in downtown San Jose that was built in 1904, and my daughter and her family live in there now, and they wanted more space, and the houses back then had really big backyards, so we added onto it. It took me an entire year to get a permit for a permit, because the house was built in 1904, and it had to go through the historical guys. And the historical guys came back and said, all you really have to do after a year is make sure the addition matches the style of the old house, which we were going to do anyway. And all you had to do was look at the plans for about 2 seconds,
right?
Which we did properly, and yep, sure enough, it's the same style. I mean, you can't copy everything from that old age, but anyway, we did it on purpose, but it took a whole year to do that. It's just crazy. Well, then the inspections, they always come out, and you have to buy it by the hour in California. This is a personal thing. So, excuse me. So the guy comes out, he does his hour and 5 minutes. Okay. So that the next time he comes out for an hour, now you only have 55 minutes. So you have to buy another hour. So the guy comes out, and now he's out for another hour and 5 minutes. So now the next time around, you're in 50 minutes in the hole. And of course, the person's in your house for maybe 5 minutes, but they include travel time. Okay. Now I can afford that. But if on the other hand, there's a lot of people who can't, and the fees on this addition probably north of $40,000, which is nuts, for a piece of paper, basically.
A lot of those fees are supporting administrative positions, within these government jobs and stuff, and it's unbelievable just how much bloat there is, within the government. So, well, we're about out of time here, but I always like to give my guests the final word. And, if there's one thing that you want to get across to, potential voters, and one word that you want to, or one thing that you want people to take away from this conversation, what would that be?
Well, first of all, you always have to end the same. My name is Robert Howell. I'm running for State Senate District 15. My website is electroberthowell.org. So electroberthowell.org. And the one thing is, I am a serious common sense guy. So all the things we talked about so far, all my solutions would be, how would a normal thinking person who doesn't have his hand in somebody else's pocket fix this issue for the benefit of everybody, not just themselves. And so that's kind of the, in a nutshell, that's kind of where I like to come from, is that I'm a taxpayer just like you. I'm not a politician. So leave it at that.
Well, Robert, thank you for coming on the show. I always end my show in prayer because I recognize what our founders understood, which is that while we have our part to play, in trying to improve our country and make our country great again, we also have to recognize that we need the help in the hand of God. Our founders, they called it providence. And so I always like to pray and just ask for God's blessing. And with that, we'll end the show. But Heavenly Father, I thank you, Lord, for this opportunity to have Robert on the show. And I pray, Lord, that you would bless his endeavor. Lord, I pray for California. I still have family there, Lord, and there's so much going on there that is just not right. But yet there's such great potential in that state. And I pray, God, that you would bring into power righteous individuals, Lord, that you would remove the corrupt, Lord, the foolish, and that you would replace them with the wise and the righteous. And Lord, I thank you for our ability to be able to vote and our ability to be able to have some say over our future. I pray, Lord, that you would wake people up and help them to see the truth, and especially in places like California. We ask this in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen.
Raise some Cain. You gotta raise some Cain. In the heartland where the faith runs strong, we've seen the shadows growing long. Watch those around us be deceived. Yeah, the fight is at our doors, no matter who we believe. Corruption, lawless day and night, we'll speak the truth into the light. We'll bring the battle, heed the call, watch the whole thing fall. We gotta raise some Cain, show the lies, break some chains and make things right. Feel the power, be the change. Time is now. We gotta raise some Cain.